Well, first of all, congratulations on being part of the program and graduating. So I would encourage you to be confident that you're here for a reason. And for the first year, what my advice would be is focus on things that got you here. So, be passionate about learning, be passionate about the things that brought you to IBM, and really focus on some quick wins. So balance learning for the long term with getting out immediately and having some success. So for year one, I would prioritize listening, learning about the accounts that you're calling on, learning about the technology, but also having a few wins right away that people will take notice of and allow you to keep growing. So that would be my advice for your first year.
I view this in sort of three ways. The first thing they expect out of us is knowledge. They assume that we work, rightfully so, with 400,000 other IBMers. So with that, they imbue that knowledge of theirs into us and expect us to be able to have access to those people and their giant corporate knowledge. So again, the answer, if you don't know the answer, you need to be able to go out and get it for them, but be honest with the customer. So that sort of knowledge base. The next is professionalism. Everyone has that image of IBM of men in blue suits. So while we don't wear blue suits anymore, and most of us, I don't know if I could find a tie again, but what they do expect from us is a level of professionalism that IBM brings with it. You're getting the best of breed products, and they're expecting best of breed professionals. So you always need to remember that. And then finally, our access to our customer base. No one in IT generally that we work with wants to be on the bleeding edge of IT. They expect IBM to have worked with hundreds or thousands of other customers with these products and to bring that experience with us. So our reference base is key when we work with our customers. So I think those are the big three things: knowledge, professionalism, and then our reference base.
Well, I think the best way to figure that out is to listen to them. So it can be a direct questioning, it can be being in front of the clients, it can be reading, reviewing, doing your homework, and go in with an open mind. And so go in and ask, and go in and get a second opinion. There's plenty of information out there, but the best way to do that research is by sitting down with somebody and asking them about it.
We have a lot of them that just came off. We've had Amanda and her team that came off about a year ago. I would tell them, get with your landing teams. Make sure you've been working with your landing team, and tell them you're off. Now you're ready to work on their team full time. Work with the manager on that team. Make sure you're available every day. Make sure your manager sees you every day, and the team you're working with, to get involved in anything you can. Just get the most experience you can get in your first year.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I wouldn't expect that, people always said to me that you wake up, every day and expecting that you want something to do, but people don't remember. They don't wake up every day and remembering to do that. So putting time on someone's calendar weekly, forcing yourself, and also keep in mind that you're trying to get a sales position. So someone is almost looking for you to sell them on you. So I had some managers kind of almost didn't answer my first email to see how persistent I would be, as almost like a pre-sales test. So are you going to be scheduling time on someone's calendar? So put it also on you, and not just that you're waiting on other people to ask you to do different tasks.
And make yourself available to everybody. Let them know you are available to work, and get involved in most projects, as many projects as you can. Because remember, they're not going to go look for you. You have to look for them.
You mentioned that you wanted me to share something on either the positive note on something I've loved. I tell every new seller that starts to work with me that I have not been doing this job for a long time. I was in a previous career before doing this, and this is the career that I love. I do love this job. It is very rewarding. It's hard to find a job that when you put in the time and effort into it, you actually see an exact positive result out of it. And when you do start getting those first sales, everyone always told me you'll never forget your first sale. But that was 100% true. I remember my first sale. It was the best feeling driving away after someone told me they would buy from me and actually getting it closed. Here in the federal office, we actually have like a giant bell you can ring. When you get to ring that bell, especially at the end of close, right before midnight, it is a great feeling. So that's some of the positive of when I was a seller. When I moved into management, it is very fulfilling on a very different end and a very different spectrum, but working with sellers who have been working at something for a long time, watching them not only just close a sale, but actually learn. Tom was here before and he was mentioning some of the new hires, seeing where they're at from, just from April to now, and seeing how much more they know, how easy it is to engage in conversation, and watching them change at meetings. I tell my new sellers it's dramatic to see a seller from 4 months ago or even 2 months ago to now see them go into meetings, and to be honest, they can do it all by themselves now. So it is fulfilling, stick with it, and that's my kind of advice.
Well, Rachel, on behalf of my classmate and the rest of the GSS, we want to extend a great appreciation to you for taking the time out of all of your busy schedule to share with us a couple of advice of being a seller. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So the question posed is, if I was a new IBM seller today, what would be my number one priority? I've worked in 2 or 3 different brands, and I've had the ability to be a new IBM seller a couple of times. And every single time, what I found that was most successful for me was I had to understand my product well enough so that I could have a meaningful conversation with the customer. Because being able to talk with them and understand when they're telling me something, that I can determine that that's a requirement, that allows me to marry that up with what products or solutions I'm selling. So until I can have that meaningful conversation about my product set, I'm not much value to my brand or to my manager at that point. So that's always my number one priority when I move to a new software brand.
So similar to the first question about getting out to a quick start. So if I were a new IBMer, I would certainly learn about IBM. So I would listen to what the CEO is saying. I would learn about the history. I'd learn about the various products. I would learn about where we're going, and I would learn the people. I would learn the people in your extended group or division. I would learn the relationships with the accounts. So, those are some things that I would do to start out my time at IBM. I learned the formal and informal structures of IBM, and then, specifically learn about how it impacts the customer that you're dealing with.
So some of the best sellers I've ever worked with actually are Summit hires, because they are very persistent and hungry to go out there and get ready. Go out, sell. They want to sell. They want to meet that quota. They want to get on the board. So one of the best stories that I will tell you is I have a Summit hire who, he's a few years out of Summit, but we told him that we thought there was an opportunity to sell a large Netezza box, but we wanted him to get with a certain person. This was not someone that we knew, had access to, had ever met before. So he went and found a conference that he was speaking at and sought him out and found him at a bar in a restaurant, and got this guy to agree to meet with us. When he came back, we flew out there, and we were actually then able to get almost $1 million sale out of it in a very short time frame, and this was really proved his persistence. So that's one of my favorite stories. Obviously there's a lot more kind of details in between, but long story short is that we said to him, hey, we want to meet with this person. We think there's an opportunity due to some hearings that we had in the past. Go get a meeting with this person. And he wouldn't stop until he got a meeting with this person and found any way to do so. And in the end, his persistence in keeping with it is what led us to close that sale, and it was a pretty large sale for him, one of his largest. Another story about some of the best sellers I've ever worked with, ones, as and Tom was here, was just saying about being visible, stayed around. I do have a mix of newer sellers and experienced sellers, but for the newer sellers, if they're here coming in person, we are all local to this area. So I think as a newer seller, learning from experienced sellers, just we have weekly meetings, hearing their commentary, what they have to say, I think is extremely helpful. Some of the stories I've also heard is that it's, again, not being persistent, just pushing through. Things get frustrating. I tell the new sellers that there are a lot of highs and lows, and especially when you first start off going on quota is quite overwhelming and it's very difficult, but it will get better. There's good weeks, there's bad weeks, but that's the life of a salesperson. At the end, it does pay off, as you heard in my previous story.
Well, first of all, I think if I was doing IBM, get to know the people I'm going to be working with. We can find out what their job responsibilities are and how I fit into their roles and what they expect from me. Get to find out my manager, what he wants from me, and make myself, again, like I said before, make myself visible to the team and to find out what what I should be learning and where I should be spending most of my time.
I think it's really important to be an expert on, you need to know what you sell and who you're selling to. And you're always going to know one better than the other, and that's fine if you pick an area, but you can't just, be really high level on both. I've told all of my sellers that we've been in meetings and I say to them, you need to know what you're selling, what you came in there, and who you're targeting to. So it spans from the spectrum of, we have such a large portfolio, we come from analytics, which we're selling a large amount of products. I would ask my manager, hey, here, can you tell me a priority list? What do you see us selling? Where should I focus on? Give me a list of the top 10. So then you can become, not a full, technical expert, but that you can have a full-on discovery call by yourself. I think people underestimate how much you actually do need to know about the software. When you go into a customer, if you don't know about what you're selling and then who you're speaking to, what their priorities are, then you will have this very high-level discussion and you won't be able to take it a step deeper to actually show value, because I always tell everyone that it should be the same way you went into an interview, where you are guiding that conversation, and if you did not get out what you wanted out of that meeting, if you walk out of a meeting and you feel you didn't get out what you wanted to say, then that's more on you. So you're guiding them by the questions you're asking, the things that you're implying, to make them have a revelation of what you're selling, but they didn't realize that you were actually taking them in that whole path. So what I would do is really know what I'm selling, and then also really understand the priorities of who I'm selling to, what they're working on, and also use that to make sure you're getting to the right people. A lot of times people focus a lot of time. It is important to get in, when you're first starting out, talk to anyone who will talk to you to learn about the agency, but you need to make sure that you're building your way up to people that have buying power and access to funds, or you're not kind of spending your time wisely. So I would say, again, learn the products, look for who you're selling to, and that you're selling to the correct people.
One other thing, I also think one of your priorities should be not only with knowing the customer, but also knowing internally IBM. IBM is such a highly matrix organization. You need to know all the different groups in IBM that you're going to be dealing with, because it's going to take you a good 6 months to know about IBM. And it can be exhausting to learn about, but that's one of your priorities, to always find out who in IBM can help you or where you need to go, because we learn something new every day about IBM.
Every day. So yeah, you are...
So you don't want to be negative about, I don't know all this stuff about IBM, because it can kill you. Just trying to get everything understand right away.
Yeah. Selling yourself internally is just as important as selling yourself externally, especially in the beginning. People do, especially in our kind of federal space, we're together a lot. A lot of people are local. So if people know that you're in the office, like Tom said, if you're visible, people know you're trying, making efforts, making things easier for people getting out there, especially during the summit program. You've already sold yourself internally, so once you go onto quota, there's a lot more people to help you.
Right, we have such a support system here that it will make your job a lot easier the more you know about these different organizations.
So the way I would answer that is, as you begin the discussion or as you engage with a potential client, think about how you would answer this question in 10 or 15 years later. Are you invested in their success? Can you point to what would make them happy and make them successful? So as you are doing the initial discovery and you're preparing a solution, do you understand what makes them sign off that this was a successful decision, implementation, and so on? So if you can start the process with a successful end in mind. I want to start as a customer reference story and work backwards. I think that's the model that I would point to. And so I've had numerous people that have done that over the years. But just keep that in mind. If you were the client, would you call this a success down the road, and then work backwards from that?
What I talk about to success for first year IBM sellers after GSS. So the first thing I tell every seller I've ever worked with is you have to understand your accounts. Pull organizational charts, take time in understanding how the customer is organized, arranged, where the buying centers are. And I'm fanatical about that. So if you understand your customer, how they're organized and arranged, it helps you plan your sales. It's not just calling and hoping, it's having a detailed plan for how to get to the person who can buy. Next, I would say is you have to understand your client's business. If you can't understand what they do, why they do it, why they show up to work every day, how are you going to tie your products back to their requirements? It goes as far as understanding the acronyms they use and the lingo they use. If it's a government customer, how are they funded? How are they created by Congress? You have to understand their customer's business. Next, you have to understand what they own. What install base do they have of yours? What products? Who is using them? Is that person happy? If they're not, what can you do to fix it? If they've let their maintenance lapse, you've got an automatic opportunity that you can bring right to the business right away. So understanding what they own is also crucial. And finally, I would say you have to work harder than everyone else. It's the one thing that is absolutely in your control. As a new seller, you don't have the experience that your peers and your competitors are going to have by nature, but what you can bring is working harder. Because as salespeople get more successful, they tend to cut back their hours on how much they're willing to work. So if you're up before them and you're there after them, you increase your odds of getting the sale over your competitors and your peers.
The question is, what is exciting about being a seller? What are some of the advantages or benefits of being in that role? So in my experience, if you're wired to do it, if you're excited about what you're able to do and what you're able to sell, it gives you the ability to be creative. It allows you to work hard and see your efforts rewarded. No 2 days will be the same, so it's been the right path for me. I think if you are interested in it, there's no better place to have access to world-class solutions, go in, have an open discussion with the client, and then map things that we can do to help them. So I encourage you to learn as much as you can, get out, start talking to the clients, figure out where we've been successful, and have a lot of fun, work hard, and you will be rewarded.